Hey, your viewers and viewesses, my name is General Red Strategist. Welcome back to Sir You're Being Hunted. This is episode 357 now, so we're back here on the, what island is this, the East Island, with our Turntables Challenge attempt number 2, ladies and gentlemen. So, came here last time to commence the challenge over on this island. Hope you guys are all doing well out there, that you're enjoying the challenge still. Now, thing is, as of when this video actually goes out, we will be past Christmas. I'm actually recording this on December the 15th. Yes, I'm going to date the video right there and then. But just looking, well, I was looking at my upload schedule before, because I actually keep a, well, what is essentially a kind of listing of a kind of schedule of when videos are going to go out on the channel, because obviously I have a certain order in which I upload videos. You know, I do kind of like, so it's something like an RTCW episode, then an episode of my third series, then an episode of Sir, third series again, RTCW, and so on and so forth. And it just goes around like that. So, you know, you look back over the previous days, you'll kind of see that. And thing is, just according to that schedule, this episode of Sir, episode 357, will be going out after Christmas. So, as of when I record, Christmas has not yet happened, but by the time it does go out, you'll all have had, hopefully, a nice festive season and all that, and it'll have been very, very good. And hopefully you enjoyed it and all that. Now, I'm not going to talk, obviously, about the festive season too much, given that, well, myself and Phil are planning, of course, to do a post-Christmas 2020 roundup at some point, so I'm not going to get kind of too into that particular subject. You can obviously look forward to that. That might not be coming out though until sometime in January, just based on when me and Phil can get some time to basically do a recording session in which we record that video. But yeah, you've got that to look forward to, in essence, everybody, which should be fantastic. No, what I really wanted to actually talk about in this video was something else entirely. Just have a chat about interesting topics of conversation as usual and all that. So, I was actually thinking just before I started recording this about something interesting, because I was looking through my Steam library at all the various games that I actually have. And it kind of occurred to me something interesting, that I kind of have a lot of old games as well, things from the sort of early 2000s, so games that I sort of vaguely remember from when I was in my teenage years, and these are all games that I have in my Steam library which I am probably going to plan on actually doing at some point here on the channel, so that'll be probably fairly good if you kind of keep your eyes peeled for that sort of thing. But just to give you a kind of a flavour of what sort of games I actually do have in my Steam library. Oh, wait for it all, friggin'. No, you don't. Or not. I was going to friggin' do this. There we go. Jesus, I thought for a second his body was going to go up over the wall. That was noisy, wasn't it? Good lord. Alright, let me just, yeah, drink that down so we're recharging health. But saying all kinds of games that I've got in my Steam library, which are older ones, so of course, you know, you have ones that I've technically already played on the channel, like Rayman 2, Rayman 3, Beyond Good and Evil, stuff like that. But also I have a ton of other games from back in the day as well, including some actually not just on Steam, but also on GOG that I have, and on EA Origin. So, for example, I have Chaser, I have I think it's called Red Faction, which is another shooter. Both of those are shooters, incidentally. And of course, actually, just before I started playing Danganronpa V3, I did my series on Grom Terror in Tibet, which is another old title. Oh, careful. Just wait for him to go past, because he's being a biatch. Off you go. That's it. Right, let's go in this direction. So yeah, I've been playing those games, and it just sort of got me thinking, because I realised that quite a few of these games, these older games that I have, are actually from a very particular year. I mean, not all of them. There are some exceptions, of course. But, for example, like take Grom Terror in Tibet, Rayman 3, Beyond Good and Evil. They all came out, for example, in 2003, as did, I think, Chaser, which I mentioned a moment ago, Red Faction I'm not so sure about. That might have come out in 2003 or maybe 2004, somewhere around there. I can't quite remember. But it was just interesting when I realised this, because it got me thinking about what if I had to kind of pick a year in my life which to me particularly stands out for the sort of games that were coming out at that time, it would be 2003 for me. That was an interesting year because there were quite a few games in 2003 which I played, and which, if you had to ask me, do they still kind of remain favourites of yours, Red? I would say, yeah, they do. So, like Rayman 3 and Beyond Good and Evil, I've already mentioned. But of course, apart from that, there was also, for example, Command and Conquer Generals in the Command and Conquer series. And I remember that was the first Command and Conquer game I ever played. And it was real fun, that one. It was quite a standout. Very different to the other Command and Conquer titles in that particular franchise. So, yeah, I remember that one. And I have to say, Command and Conquer Generals and its expansion pack Zero Hour are probably among my favourite RTS games that I've ever played. I don't think any of the other Command and Conquer games have really kind of come close to being as good as Generals was. So yeah, 2003, like I say, big games that I played and which remain my favourites. Rayman 3, of course, is one of my all-time favourite 3D platformers, and probably my favourite game in the Rayman franchise. Beyond Good and Evil, of course, which I've done a playthrough of here on the channel. That was, another one that is probably one of my all-time favourite games. So there's that. Incidentally, I remember when I played Beyond Good and Evil here on the channel, I think I played actually my original disc copy of it, which, in retrospect, was kind of a bit of a poor decision on my part, really, because it was available, or at least a more, I think, up-to-date kind of version of it on Steam or GOG or wherever, and I could have actually played that version, which probably would have been better, because the problem with the old disc version is because obviously that was 2003, the resolution of the game is a lot lower than more modern games, because obviously it was made, back in the day when computer monitors were much smaller. And you can obviously see that in my Beyond Good and Evil videos when there's bloody great big black bars around the sides of the video. It was really unprofessional, amateurish of me, but having said that, I don't really claim to be a professional of video editing. But, so yeah, I should have really, when I was doing that series, I should have played, I should have bought the Steam or GOG version or whatever, wherever it is, and actually played that, because I imagine that might actually have been updated with more kind of like widescreen resolutions and whatever else have you. Should have, coulda, shoulda, woulda and all that. But at the end of the day, I did it, and I enjoyed playing that on the channel. It was great. If you haven't watched my Beyond Good and Evil series, and if you can stomach big black bars along the side of the video, then go and watch it. It was quite enjoyable, and I really loved playing it. It was good stuff. But yeah, so just kind of keeping on with the topic of conversation, 2003, such an interesting year in video games. So you have those ones that I mentioned just then, Rayman 3, Beyond Good and Evil, Command & Conquer Generals, which ones that I played fully and really enjoyed. But I remember 2003, that was the kind of year when I used to get my hands on a lot of demo discs from PC Gamer magazine back in the day, and there used to be some real standout titles on there. So interesting, whilst I played the full version, the disc version that is, of Grom, Terror in Tibet not long ago, just before I started playing DRV3, obviously at the start of that series I mentioned that I originally first encountered Grom back in 2003 when I played the demo version of it on a demo disc from 2003. And I also mentioned obviously Chaser a moment ago, another game, the shooter, which incidentally I also played originally as a demo from a demo disc back in 2003. So, I've got that now in my Steam library. That's a game I would love to play on the channel at some point. There's another one as well, which I also, again, remember as a demo from 2003. A really obscure Russian game, an FPS, from what I remember. And its title was The Stalin Subway. Now, if you go and look at this on Steam, because it's available on Steam, and that's where I've got it, it doesn't have very good reviews, let's put it that way. In essence, people have commented that apparently it's a really fucking buggy game. And to be quite honest, I remember it being really buggy back in the day when I played the demo. And I remember playing the demo, like I say, back in the day, back in 2003, and thinking, my god, this thing is an absolute glitch fest. And then for many, many years after that, I kind of forgot that that game existed. And so, it was only several months ago, round about maybe several months to a year ago, when I was looking on Steam, and lo and behold, I came across none other than the full version of the Stalin Subway. And I thought to myself, oh my god, I'd forgotten completely that that game was ever a thing. I completely forgot that that game actually existed. That's crazy. I have to buy this. So yeah, apparently it's really, really fucking buggy, but there are apparently patches you can get which do make it playable. So, who knows, maybe you'll see that on the channel at some point. That again, it's another game that I would love to play here on my channel. But there is, obviously I mentioned Red Faction as well, Red Faction a moment ago. And that's another game which, to be quite honest, I don't know what year it originally came out, but it will be interesting potentially to play it here as well, since it's a bit of an old game. Someone did once ask me, I think at the start of my Ground Terror in Tibet series, how many 2003 games do I actually have? Loads of them, that's the answer, to be quite honest. Oh shit, I'm out of ammo. That's a lot of guys, we're getting out of here, we've done the ambush, it's fine. Whoa, I'm not fucking it up again like I did the first time round. Go, go, go. Use the cover of the rocks. There we go, I am bleeding, so... whoop. Take one of those down. So I charged in there, didn't even reload because I'm an idiot. Alright, just keep moving. We've done the ambush by those buildings, that's fine. Let's veer off at an angle here, put these buildings between ourselves and our pursuers. So yeah, all I know about Red Faction as a game is that apparently it's set on Mars. Something like that. It's to do with Mars. I don't know. Planet Mars, that is. But other than that, I don't really know anything besides the fact that it's a shooter. But yeah, Chaser, actually, having mentioned that a moment ago, that's also a first-person shooter. And it's an interesting one. It has a very kind of cyberpunk feel, at least from what I remember from the demo. All I remember is that all I remember from the demo is that I think the storyline is something like your character has some kind of memory loss and is trying to get his memories back. Something like that. I can't remember. Something along those lines. But I think actually in that game, in the full version, there was a level on Mars in that one as well. So 2003 must have been a year for games set on Mars, or with Martian settings, I don't know. It was because it was kind of that year where we'd just gone through the turn of the century, and so people were looking ahead to the future and wondering, you know, what was the future going to hold? We hadn't yet fallen into the phase of depression when we realised that things going on in the world were absolute cause for pessimism, like the fucking war on terror and stuff like that, Iraq War syndrome, whatever else have you. In 2003, the war on terror was still in its infancy. That kind of public pessimism in places like America and parts of Europe hadn't yet set in, so we were still in the kind of that kind of stage where the optimism of the 90s hadn't yet sort of disappeared, but we'd been through the shock of 9/11 and all that. Sorry, what is this conversation that I'm having all of a sudden? I was talking about games from 2003, and suddenly I got onto politics and public moods in the early 2000s. What a fucking tangent that was, good lord. Alright, so, yeah, so many 2003 games, and want to play it, but want to be able to play them. So yes, let me know, anyone. Any of those games that I've just talked about, are they familiar to you? Have you played any of them? Are any of them any good? Are they worth potentially taking a look at here on the channel? Am I hearing? Yeah, I am hearing a rider somewhere. I thought I could hear him somewhere in the background, just very faintly. I'm just checking to see if there's any other large buildings that we need to examine. So yes, that's actually another question for all you viewers out there, if you want to engage with a nice topic of discussion. So I've said that, you know, for me, 2003 was a notable year in video gaming, in terms of the sort of games that were being released and whatever else have you. What about you guys? Is there a particular year that that springs to your mind when you think of gaming and you think of notable games that came out? What's your kind of standout year in video gaming? The thing is, like I say, I was only a teenager back in 2003, and like I say, just a standout year. And like I say, I used to get PC Gamer magazine. I mean, not many of them. I only had a couple of issues, but It was just a very interesting publication, actually. I mean, it was very much of its time. I've had a Surrey Being Hunted episode before where I talked, for example, about PS1 magazine back in the day, after that Cad Icarus video that I watched, where apparently PS1 magazine kind of went through this sort of very lads culture phase. So that was just notable. But, oh, shit. Okay. Shit. Never mind. We're out of here. Let's go. Besides, we have been recording for about 15 minutes or so, which is probably enough for an episode, to be honest. Alright, let's get out of here. Go through the water. Oh, there's a rider inbound. I hear him. Yo, he's right there. Get over the fence. Get over to this bit of land over here. At least it's shallow enough for me to just wander through. But yeah, as I was saying, PS1 magazine, back in the day, by all accounts, had that kind of phase where it became very laddish. Things like that. I do recall PC Gamer magazine, to some extent also, at least from the issues that I saw, being a bit like that from time to time. Though, having said that, I didn't get anywhere near enough issues of it to really make an overall judgment on the state of that magazine at that time. But, yeah. But like I say, it was... I think I got rid of those magazines after a couple of years, which is kind of a shame. Because now that I think about it, I wish I'd kept them. Because obviously those issues were from 2003, around about then. So it would have been interesting just to go over them and have a look at what sort of other games were being released at that time. Because there'll be plenty of them that I don't remember, you know? It'll be interesting. It would have been such a nostalgia trip to be able to pick them up, look back over them and think, oh my god, do you remember that game that was being released? That game that has now probably faded into obscurity. Because, you know, trust me, there will be tons of games from the kind of early to mid-2000s which people probably played back at the time and remember very fondly, but which now have fallen into obscurity. So obviously Grom Terror in Tibet, which I played recently, would be one of them. Stalin Subway would be another. It's certainly another one I can think about, which I think came out, well, I remember playing the demo of it back in 2003, and it probably came out same year, was one I think by Microsoft, Freelancer. Does anyone remember that one? It was like a spaceflight sim, sci-fi game where you had like your little spaceship, you could deck it out with laser guns and all kinds of stuff. There was a storyline to that, or at least there were characters, and I imagine there was a whole storyline to it. And the idea was you could go flying around these kind of solar systems with their own unique aesthetics. Man, I wonder if I could get a second-hand copy of that somewhere on eBay and see if I can get that working on the channel. Holy shit, that would be awesome, actually. Because Freelancer was one of those games which, at least from the demo, I don't recall it being buggy or anything like that. I think, in fact, I remember it handling fairly smoothly and being a very interesting-looking game. So, who knows? Maybe that's something to look for. It was No Man's Sky long before No Man's Sky was a thing. Well, maybe not, actually. No Man's Sky at least has planetary exploration mechanics, whereas Freelancer didn't really. It was all about the spaceflight. Okay, right, that's probably enough for me for this episode. So this is episode 357, ladies and gentlemen, with me, General Red Strategist. Hope you enjoyed this one. Answer my questions down in the comments if you want to engage with them. And Facebook and Twitter links down below, along with a link to my propagandist channel, blah, blah, blah. If you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. As I said at the start of the video, myself and Phil will hopefully be doing a Collab Sir episode at some point where we'll just do a post-Christmas 2020 roundup, talking about the festive season, but like I say, that might not be coming out until sometime in January. So, goodbye everybody.
Okay, so
I'm guessing that's definitely
oh, I've got to ask the most important question.
Yes.
Do you have dynamite? There we go, of course. Dynamite diffused. I know.
So this guy here appears to be wearing some sort of sports gear.
Oh, this is interesting. It's like some new levels for it. Like a DLC, you could say.
Yeah, this is kind of unique. I can actually see why this one was recommended to me.
Oh, it's a good job I picked this one then, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
So these enemies are not in the main game?
No, they're not. It's like a modern setting, that's what it is.
Oh.
It's kind of streets and this. You're a bit freaky, you are, isn't it?
I can't believe this was done in 2019, December 2019.
I know.
That's only 2 months ago.